Congratulations on becoming the owner of the Navigator by Canon. In this one self-contained unit, you have just acquired all of the functions of an office full of equipment, an auto-dialing telephone, and a sophisticated digital phone answering machine, a full-featured facsimile machine, and a copier, an IBM-compatible personal computer, and a printer, and even a full-page scanner you can use to read in pictures for desktop publishing. Now that's just the hardware you get. You also receive a pretty amazing collection of software, including some of the most popular word processing, database, telecommunications, desktop publishing, and graphics programs available. And all of it is pre-configured and ready to use. You even get Software Toolworks' best-selling Chessmaster chess program, and the world's favorite typing tutor, Mavis Beacon Teaches Typing. Obviously, Canon wants you to get the most out of your new Navigator, and that's why we've provided this videotape. Here you'll see how each component of the Navigator works, and you'll learn some helpful tips for using your Navigator effectively. In the upper right-hand corner of the screen, you see the number of the topic we're discussing, and accompanying this tape is a printed index, showing you the order of topics covered in this tape. That way, when you want to find a certain section, you can fast-forward your VCR and easily find what you're looking for. So, let's get on with it. The first order of business, of course, is to install the Navigator. Make sure you've chosen a clean, clear place where you can set down the components without losing them or letting them get dirty or dusty. The location for your unit should be both sturdy and steady, and close to both a telephone connection and a wall power socket. That telephone line shouldn't have call waiting, or your fax transmissions can be interrupted. If you're using the Navigator with an office multi-line telephone, be sure to connect it to a dedicated phone line that connects directly to your office phone system. The space you select for the Navigator should allow you to get to the rear of the unit. Faxes emerge from the back, and most of the cable connections are there too. You also want a space next to the keyboard for the mouse. About 12 inches square should do just fine. The separate Canon bubble jet printer has a power cable and a cable which connects it to the printer. Now let's take a look at what you have. Of course, the main Navigator unit, a telephone handset, and the keyboard. Also, a mouse, a power cord, and a telephone line cord. The printer has two cables, one for a wall power outlet and one to connect it to the Navigator. You will also find diskettes and a set of manuals. You'll want to keep these both nearby. If you tilt the Navigator forward, you can pull down the tilt bar from underneath. This adjusts the angle of the unit. Try it both ways to see which is most comfortable for you. Before you turn on the machine, you'll also need to lift this cover and pull this front piece forward. That way you can remove the cardboard packing insert. Fine. Now pop this back into place and close this lid on the top again, so we can easily get to the back. The back here are some important connections, but we'll get to those in a minute. First, let's install the thermal paper. Open the back compartment by pushing up this lever on the right. In here you'll find a roll of thermal paper, still in its wrapping. Remove the wrapping and then pull a little paper away from the roll. That will help you in a moment. Place the paper back in the holder, and then feed the end of the paper you just loosened through the slot in the door so it sticks out the back, like this. You'll find a diagram of the paper path right here. Go ahead and close the door firmly, and then press this lever on the left to cut off the excess paper. While we're back here, let's also remove this cover so the connections on the back are exposed. Give it a tug and it'll pop right out. Good. Now we're set to connect the cables. Insert the power cable into this socket and the phone cord into this socket. It only fits one place. Here, connect the printer cable to the parallel port. Only one end of the cable fits into the Navigator, and the other fits into the printer. Finally, connect the mouse cord to the serial port, and connect the other end of the printer cable to the printer. The last remaining step is to connect the printer's power cable. The handset plugs into a phone jack at the front of the Navigator. And the keyboard connector fits into this round socket. This one's a little hard to see, but the notch on the keyboard connector helps you orient the connector properly. The notch faces up. Now, with everything connected, you're ready to get started. And I know you're probably anxious, but don't turn on your machine yet. First, you need to insert the MS-DOS system disk. It's the first installation diskette into the disk drive. Be sure to insert it label side up and with the metal cover facing into the machine. And then start the Navigator by flipping the power switch in the rear. In a moment, the system will be ready to start the software installation. Let's take a look at that next. After the Navigator powers up, you will see this question. Is this your first installation? You should answer yes by pressing the Y key. In a moment, you'll see a second question. Are you sure you want to run Navigator F-Disk? Say yes again by pressing Y. Then, when requested, press any key. From here, the Navigator will guide you all the way. When it's ready, it'll ask you to insert each of the data disks. Just follow its instructions, and you'll be done in about 10 minutes. One of the reasons for the Navigator's easy operation is its touch-sensitive screen. Press one of these on-screen pictures, called icons, and the Navigator responds. By pressing one of the on-screen icons, I can launch any of the Navigator's programs. Some icons lead to the main functions, the phone book and the answering machine, for example. Some lead to separate software applications I can use on the computer, such as Q&A or Publish It. This particular display lets you enter your telephone number and your name for the top of each fax page you send. It also lets you adjust the volume of the Navigator's built-in speaker. I'll use it to demonstrate how the on-screen controls work. You adjust the settings on the Navigator's screens simply by pressing the buttons you see. I'll turn up the speaker volume just by pressing one of these speaker volume buttons. Let's try the loudest volume. Well, that's too loud. I'll choose a softer tone by pressing one of the buttons to the left. That's better. While I'm here, I'll take a moment to enter my name and phone number. To enter my phone number, I'll touch the blank phone number line, and then I'll type my fax phone number. And then press Enter. Good. Now I'll do the same with username. Some Navigator displays have additional pages of information. You can turn these pages as though you were turning the pages of a book. These two buttons are the key. The bottom button displays the next page. The button above turns back to the previous page. This exit button, always at the top left corner of the screen, lets you leave what you are doing and return to the main screen at any time. Two special buttons are always available whenever you are working. These two display the pop-up phone book from which you can select someone to call or someone to fax to. What's special about these buttons is that they are always active. Even if you're in the middle of calculating numbers in a spreadsheet, you can make a call using the phone book and then return to your work. We'll go through that later. The phone book also pops up whenever you lift the receiver off its hook, no matter what you're working on. After the Navigator dials for you, you can return to your work while you are talking on the phone. Later, you'll learn how to use the auto dialer and how to add your own entries to the phone book. I also want to show you an alternative to touching the screen. The mouse moves a pointer on the screen. By placing the pointer on an icon and clicking the left button of the mouse, I can launch an application just as if I had pointed to it. In fact, you may prefer to use the mouse altogether rather than the touch screen. That's just fine. It'll even keep your screen clear of fingerprints. Here's a tip, though. To control the mouse easily, place the heel of your hand on the desk behind the mouse and then move it with your fingers, like this. That'll help your accuracy. As we proceed through this video manual, I'll use both the touch screen and the mouse so you can see both in action. Remember, whatever you can do with one, you can do with the other. Okay, with these preliminaries out of the way, it's time to take a look at how the various components of the Navigator work. Let's take a look at the telephone first. Making a phone call with the Navigator is just as easy as making a call with a standard telephone. To make a call, you can do any one of three things. You can pick up the handset, you can press the tell button, or you can press the telephone icon on the screen. I'll press the tell button. Whichever method you choose, the phone book pops up on the screen, right over whatever work you were doing at the time. But don't worry, when you finish using the phone book, you can close it up and return to your work. Let's take a little closer look at the phone book. On the front 2 pages are 21 people or companies you call most. You see only the first 9 here. The remaining 12 are on the second page. Press the Next Page button to get there. Of course, the phone book holds more than just 21 entries. You can include as many people, companies, or organizations as you want. They're all alphabetized and available at the press of a button. These index tabs can help you find an entry quickly. When you press one, for example, I'll press the STU tab. You see the first page of the S's. To flip to the next page, press the Next Page button, like this. Notice the index tabs now show individual letters. If you press one, you see the entries starting with that letter. To jump back to the first page of the book, you can always press the First Page button here. After you find the name you want to call, you press that button. Let's say I want to call John Smith, so I'll press the John Smith button. Now, John Smith's phone number shows up, and a short memo I entered earlier shows up too. This memo reminds me that John's wife is named Mary Ann, in case she answers instead. To call John, I press the Dial button. John's number appears here on the dialing display, and in a moment I'll be talking to John. This dialing display can come in handy. If I reach John's dreaded voicemail machine, I can use it to press a number, such as pressing 0 to hold for the operator. The hold button on this screen is just like the hold button on a standard telephone, except that the Navigator's hold plays a melody over the line. Let me show you. That's Chopin. Just press the hold button again to continue talking. Next, we'll take a look at how to set up your own phone book. To set up your own phone book, press the phone book icon you see here. This screen appears with a number of choices, including Load and Save, near the bottom. We'll start by loading and adding a few entries to the main phone book. You can also create additional phone books and you'll find information about that in the manual. For now, let's update the master phone book. When you press Load, pbook.dat is highlighted. Choose it by pressing OK. When the Navigator asks whether it can delete the editing phone book, say OK. Then, to edit the book you just loaded, press Edit. From here, it's pretty straightforward. To add an entry, press Add, here. Then, type information into the spaces provided. Type the last name first, if you want the list alphabetized by last name. For the first entry, I'll type Samuels, comma, John. And then press Enter. Then I'll type in John's phone number, fax number, and a short memo about John. To save time, I'll leave the memo blank. If I've made a mistake, I can press DEL, delete, to start over. If I want an entry to be on the cover of the book, as well as inside, I can press Daily. But I'll just press Set to insert John into the phone book. Now I can add someone else, or press Exit to return to the main screen. To confirm that John's where he should be, I'll press the STU Index tab. And sure enough, John is placed on the S page automatically. I'll press Exit once again to return to this screen. From here, I can choose Save. Make sure pbook.dat is highlighted, and then I'll press OK to save the revised pbook. Press OK again to confirm that it's all right to replace the existing pbook. Now, one last step. I've updated pbook on disk, but I haven't yet made it active. In fact, the old phone book is still in the Navigator's memory. To activate the new book, I choose Set, and then press OK. Let's take a look at another of the Navigator's components, the answering machine. If you've used an answering machine at home, you're already familiar with the operation of the Navigator's answering machine. It's that simple. Let's start by going through the process of recording the message a caller hears when he calls you. I'll get to the answering machine by pressing the answering machine icon here. It looks just like a sophisticated version of a home answering machine. It even has microcassette tapes, just like the real thing. This tape on the left holds two different outgoing messages. One is the message most callers hear, with instructions to leave a message and you'll call them right back, that sort of thing. And the other is a separate message callers hear when the tape is full and the machine can no longer record. It might advise them to try again later on, or perhaps give them another number to call in an emergency. The other tape records the incoming messages from callers. Well, we have not yet inserted a tape, so it's still a blank tape compartment. Let's go through the steps of recording both of these messages. The Answer 1 button is illuminated, so we're recording that first. Now I'll press the Record button and follow the instructions that appear on the screen. The Navigator guides you every step of the way. After I lift the handset, another message tells me to press the Play Skip button to start the recording. Then I'll speak clearly into the handset microphone and press the Stop Eject button when I'm done, like this. Hello, I'm not home now, but please leave a message at the tone and I'll call you back as soon as possible. The screen tells me to hang up the handset, so I'll do that now. To listen to the message I've just recorded, I'll press the play button.
Hello, I'm not home now, but please leave a message at the tone and I'll call you back as soon as possible.
That's pretty good. I can press answer to and then do exactly the same thing to record the second message. Remember, the second message is the message callers hear when the message tape is full. It's also an alternate message you can instruct the navigator to play by calling into the machine and pressing a special code on the phone's keypad. That can come in handy if you would like to instruct people to call you at a second number rather than leaving a message. Now that my outgoing message is recorded, I'll set the machine to answer the phone while I'm away. By touching the right tape compartment, this display asks where I want to store incoming messages. I'll make sure the C drive, the navigator's hard disk, is lit. You can also store messages on a diskette if your hard disk is filled with work. There's still room on my hard disk, though, so I'll say OK to using it by pressing the OK button. Now take another look at the navigator's display. The right compartment has a tape in it, and the free counter, here, reads 75. I'll press the on button here under answer mode, and this display lets me confirm the number of seconds each caller can speak before being cut off. Of course, the shorter each message is, the more the tape can hold. So I'll reduce this number to 30 seconds. That should be more than enough for each call. I'll press and hold this button. The other button next to it would increase the length. I'll press the set button to the right and then listen.
Hello, I'm not home now, but please leave a message at the tone and I'll call you back as soon as possible.
That was just to verify that the correct outgoing message is set. The screen confirms that the answer phone is active, and it indicates that 0 messages have come in and that it has free space to record 99 messages. Now I'll go out for a while and see if I've gotten any calls when I return. Sure enough, while I was out, 2 messages came in. The message counter reads 2, and the free remaining is now 97 rather than 99. So here's what you do to listen to them. First, turn off answer mode. Then press the message button to listen to your messages. Then, just as with an ordinary answering machine, press the rewind button to rewind the tape to message 1 and press play.
And it's Karen. The proposal looks really great. Please call me so we can discuss it. 555-1212. Thank you.
Now the navigator asks whether to delete the first message. I won't need it again, so I'll press OK.
Ken, hi, it's Lee. Listen, I'm not going to be able to make that meeting tomorrow. Can you try and reschedule it? If you need to reach me, call me at 555-2800. Thanks.
And now I'll erase this message by pressing OK. I can repeat the process until I've heard all of the messages. I can even use the fast forward and rewind controls to skip to the next message or rewind to the previous message so I can hear it again. Like any good answering machine, you can also listen to your messages by calling in from a touch-tone phone. In the next segment, we'll take a look at how. You can control most of the features of the answering machine by calling into it from a touch-tone phone, listening to messages that have come in, recording new outgoing messages, or switching from one outgoing message to the other. The key to using this feature is to set a playback password before you leave. This button here lets you enter a 4-digit number you'll use to identify yourself to the navigator when calling it from another phone. After you press it, a keypad appears, so you can type in the number. I'll type my favorite 4-digit number, 1225, Christmas. And then press Set. Good. Now it's up here, displayed under PB Password. Let's take a look at what happens when I call in for messages. I'm at my client's office. Let's take a look at what happens when I call in for messages. I'm dialing the Navigator as though I plan to leave a message. But while my own message plays back, I press the pound key and then my 4-digit pass number.
Hello, I'm not home now, but please leave a message at the tone and I'll call you back as...
Press a number, 1 through 6.
I press 3 to listen to messages.
Please wait a moment.
Ken, it's Steve. I'd like to talk with you. Would you give me a call at 555-4637?
Do you want to delete the message you just heard?
To say yes, I press the asterisk.
Please wait a moment.
Good.
This message has been deleted. Press a number, 1 through 6.
Now that I've heard my message, I press 9 to end remote operation, and then hang up. Now, let's take a look at the facsimile part of the Navigator. You've got several choices when you're ready to send a fax. The Navigator can act as a standard fax machine, sending and receiving paper documents just like any other fax machine. Or it can send faxes directly from within any of the software applications that come with the Navigator, such as Q&A. First, I want to show you how to use the Navigator as a standard fax machine. No matter what you're doing on the Navigator, writing a letter, updating a database, or calculating your bottom line with a spreadsheet, you can always use the fax machine to send off a quick fax. Just press the fax button at the top right corner of the screen, and the fax phone book pops up over your work. The unit's now ready to send a fax. When you're done faxing, you can return to your work as though nothing happened. I've got 2 fax pages to send. Watch. I'll pick Liz Arnold. On this screen, the fax number for Liz appears. Over on the right are some adjustments I can use to adjust detail and darkness. Normal is the detail setting right now, but I can choose Fine if my document is a drawing with many detailed lines. Or I can choose Halftone if I am sending a photograph or a drawing with many shades of gray. I'm sending a standard memo though, so I'll set this control on Normal. The darkness control below can help properly send an especially faint or dark document. If the document is faint, a bad photocopy for example, I can select Darker. Or I can use Lighter to adjust for a document that is too dark. I printed this document just a moment ago on my Navigator printer, so it's perfect. I'll leave it at a normal setting. Now, we're ready to feed in the pages and go. Make sure the top of the unit is open and the paper holder is raised. Then feed in your pages face down. You can place up to 5 pages here at a time. Then, if you need to, you can insert more pages after the first 5 have been sent. Now, back to the screen. Everything is all set, so I'll press the Start button here. The Navigator places the call, and my fax is on its way. After a fax transmission is complete, you can get a printed activity report, as I've already done, by pressing the Functions button on the facsimile phone book screen and pressing the Report button. This Talk button over here lets you have a standard conversation with somebody at the other end after a fax transmission is sent. We'll discuss this WP Transmit button in a moment when we take a look at sending a fax from within a word processing program. Two other buttons you should know about on the main display are Redial and Setup. The Redial button simply lets you send another fax to the same recipient you just called. The Setup button leads to this screen. Let's not worry about hooking time, pause time, and melody. These are all settings that have to do with the unit's phone. This setting, receiving mode, is important to the operation of the fax function, though. When receiving mode is set to fax, the Navigator acts just like a dedicated fax machine. When a call comes in, the Navigator picks it up and sends fax tones. Whoever is calling then proceeds with a standard fax transmission. When receiving mode is set to phone, you can receive standard phone calls. If one of those calls is a fax, if you hear the tones of a fax machine rather than a caller's voice when you pick up the phone, you start fax reception manually. Here's how to do it. I'll return to the Navigator's main menu so I can show you this. Well, how about that? There's a call now. I'll pick up the handset and see if it's someone I know. No, it's an incoming fax. Even though I'm in the middle of important work, I'll press the fax button so the pop-up fax screen appears. Then I'll press the dial button. Then the start button. Now, as the fax emerges from the back of the Navigator, let me mention another way to receive faxes. If you're away from your office or home, and you've set the answering machine to record your calls, the Navigator is smart enough to distinguish between incoming phone calls and incoming fax calls. It can record incoming phone calls like any answering machine, and these can alternate with incoming faxes. At your discretion, it can either store the faxes on the hard disk or print them as they come in. Let's go back to the answering machine for a moment so I can show you how to be sure the Navigator is set up to handle both types of calls. This setting determines whether faxes received while the answering machine is set are printed directly or whether they are stored on disk for printing later. If you leave it on off, as it is set here, incoming faxes are simply printed. If you set it to on, incoming faxes are stored on the Navigator's hard disk. When would you want to store incoming faxes on disk? Well, a separate utility, the File Format Converter, can convert faxes into graphics files you can use in Publish-It, the desktop publishing software. That means you can include in letters, proposals, and other documents photographs faxed to you. We'll take a look at the File Format Converter later. Another utility, the Fax File Utility, displays and prints faxes that have been stored on disk. Let's take a look at it now. The Fax File Utility has two separate functions. It displays faxes that are stored on disk, and it prints them. Let's take a look at a stored fax by pressing the Display button. This display shows the faxes I have stored on my hard disk. I'll pick one of these faxes by pointing to it and pressing. Note that its file name is RECE for Received, 4 zeros and fax at the end. Then I'll press the OK button. In a moment, the top half of the fax appears on the screen. To look at the next portion of the fax, I can press the Next Page button here, or move to a particular page of a multi-page fax by using the Page Move button. These up and down arrows let me move the page up and down on the screen a line at a time. This button, labeled Large, zooms in on the top left corner of the fax. Zooming in can be helpful when you want to inspect a portion of a page closely, for example, the details in a picture. Now I can use the arrow buttons to move up or down, left or right, or the button labeled Small to return to the previous display. To print this fax, I can press the Print button and then select either All to print all the pages of the fax, or Page to print just this page. This Start button would begin the printing. Let me return to the main screen by pressing the Exit button and show you the fax print feature. Here's the same screen, but when I select the fax and press OK, the entire fax begins to print. Canon has provided several software programs called utilities that you can use for various functions. Let's take a look at these now. The bulletin board is both a place that you can write notes to yourself or to another user of the Navigator, and a place the Navigator can use to send you error messages when, say, a fax does not go through properly. Whenever you see the word message at the top of the screen like this, you should check the bulletin board to see what's there. Let's take a quick look at the bulletin board. On the left is a standard message pad. Let's fill out a quick message. Watch what this box does, just right next to 2. It's an informal note, so I'll leave it blank. Then I'll select from this list at the right. These are names that I write to very often. Then I'll do the same for from, but here I'll just type my name, Ken. For of, I'll type Canon. And for number, I'll type 555-1234. Now I can type a quick memo if I want, or check one of these boxes by pressing it. Let's see. I want to say that I telephoned and that I want him to call me back. Good. Now I can print this or leave it for when he returns. If this is my machine and I come back to it and find the message indicator is lit, I can take a look at the messages I have by pressing this little curled page corner here. Now all my waiting messages are displayed. I can delete those I don't need by pressing the Delete button and then pressing the message, or I can print them all. Once they're printed, they're deleted from the screen. This right page holds 5 tos and 10 froms, 3 on this page, and 7 more if I turn the page by pressing the page curl here. The digital watch icon leads you to a utility to set the date and time on the system. Let's take a quick look. To change something, you just press the item you want to change. The date, the time, or the alarm time. I'll press the hour, for example. And then use these buttons to either increase or decrease the number. Press Set here when you're done. You can also turn the alarm on by pressing the Alarm button. This symbol indicates that the alarm will ring at this time. Another utility you may want to use from time to time is the notepad. You can type a short note or memo here and then use one of these controls to edit it, save it, or print it. Clear clears the screen, so you can start a new note. Line delete deletes the current line. Undo lets you bring back a line you accidentally deleted. File lets you either save the note to disk or call up a different note. And print sends the note to the printer. It's very simple and straightforward. Perhaps the most simple and straightforward item on the Navigator, though, is this icon here. When you press it, the screen freezes so you can wipe it clean. A message instructs you to press Escape when you're finished to return to the main screen. Now let's take a look at the last utility, and probably the most important, the File Manager, which is represented by this disk icon here. The File Manager shows you all the file folders on your hard disk. If you know DOS, you probably know that they're actually directories. All files for the Publish It program are stored in the Publish folder. And all Q&A files are stored in the Q&A folder, for example. You can view the files in a folder by selecting the folder. I'll press the DOS folder to take a look at the files there. You can select any of these files and then select a command from the left, such as copy, move, rename, or delete. These are all covered in the printed instructions for the File Manager, so we won't try to cover them here. But you should know that this folder, which always appears at the top left, is special. It's labeled with 2 dots, and it closes the folder you're looking into and returns you to the screen with all of the folders. As you become more familiar with the software applications that come with the Navigator, you will find times when you can make good use of the commands in the File Manager. Now let's take a look at some of the software which comes bundled with the Navigator. Software which will take care of most of the jobs you'll want to accomplish with the Navigator's computer. You'll find a superb database manager and word processor in Q&A. Q&A is renowned for its ability to let you type commands in simple, common phrases. When you start Q&A, you will see this screen. File is filing system, also known as a database manager. You start the database manager by pressing F. R is the report module, which allows you to print reports based on the data you've got in a database. For example, you can print an alphabetical list of clients in Montana. W for write is the word processor. You'll find it extremely easy to use. A is the assistant you can call on to ask simple questions about your database in plain, everyday English. In this video manual, we won't go into the specific operation of Q&A or any of the software applications that come with the Navigator. You'll find all the instructions you need in the printed user manuals. But you can be sure all of these programs have been selected by Canon for their power, easy operation, and simplicity. Let's take a quick look at 2 graphics programs that are also installed. Deluxe Paint, here, is one of the most popular and powerful painting programs you can buy. Using the mouse, you can draw on the screen, or use any of these tools, such as the paintbrush or spray can, to add to or edit your drawings. When you're done, you can print them or save them as files and incorporate them into documents you produce with Publish It. Here, let me close Deluxe Paint so I can show you Publish now. Publish It is a desktop publishing program you can use to lay out letters, proposals, and anything else that should look professionally produced. Publish It combines text and graphics files you produce in other programs and formats them into pages ready for printing. Word for Word Professional is a superb program which translates word processing documents from one format to another. You can take a document you created in Q&A, for example, and translate it into a WordPerfect document. Everything translates, all of your text and all of its formatting. You'll be amazed how many word processing formats it supports. Here, let me show you your choices. This is only the first screen of choices. Here are the rest. As you can see, if the word processor format you want is not on this list, you're probably using the wrong word processor. Another utility included in the software bundle is Backup Pro, which lets you safeguard the work on your hard disk by placing it onto floppy diskettes. Backup Pro shows you a diagram of all the directories and files on your hard disk and lets you pick those you want to copy to floppy diskettes. It works extremely quickly, and it even compresses the files so they take up fewer diskettes. DS Optimize cleans up and reorders the data on your hard disk, so it works as quickly and efficiently as possible. You'll want to use this utility once every few months as routine maintenance. As with all the software provided with the Navigator, you'll find complete instructions on how to use it in the printed manuals. Chessmaster is a superb chess program that lets you play against the computer. You may find it hard to beat. And Mavis Beacon teaches typing, the world's favorite typing tutor. It makes learning to type or just brushing up your typing skills fun and interesting. Let's move on now to some of the more advanced aspects of the Navigator. This utility lets you convert files from one file format to another. With it, you can convert files among PCX, TIFF, LBM, and other formats, so you can exchange graphics files among different programs. Some of the file formats the converter can handle are for graphics. PCX, TIFF, and LBM are different ways of storing images in files. PCX, the format used by a painting program called PC Paintbrush, can be imported into a variety of graphics, word processing, and desktop publishing programs, including Publishit, provided with the Navigator. TIFF is another similar graphics format used by many programs, and LBM is the format used by Deluxe Paint, the painting program included with your Navigator. The file-to-file format converter also lets you scan directly to TIFF, PCX, or LBM files, so you can easily scan in a picture for use in Publishit. But it's the first three options we're particularly concerned with here. These let you convert a fax file to PCX, TIFF, or LBM. I'll try converting a fax file to LBM format so I can edit it in Deluxe Paint before importing it into Publishit for a newsletter I'm working on. I'll press the Fax to LBM button. Now a list of the faxes on disk appears. Remember that the fax file we looked at before was RECE 4 zeros, a fax file. Let's pick that one by pointing to it. The correct name appears here, so I'll press OK, and then press OK again when the Navigator confirms that I really want to begin the conversion. Now we've taken a look at manually sending a fax by using the phone book, picking a destination, and then feeding in pages. But let's take a look at another way to send a fax, right from within an application, such as Q&A. By now, I'm sure you're amazed at all of the things you can do when you combine a phone, an answering machine, a fax, and a printer, all in one box. But there's more. And here's where the Navigator really shines. Normal fax machines let you send printed pages through the phone to another fax machine. But the Navigator is far better. It lets you send from within any of the software programs pages you haven't even printed. Here's how it works. Just before you print a letter, a memo, or a proposal, you pop up the fax screen and tell the fax machine to intercept the document you are about to send to the printer. Then, when you return to your software and try to print, the Navigator steps in, catches the document, and sends it to the fax destination you've chosen. Not only is that extremely convenient, but it results in better-looking faxes. Whatever you send goes right out over the phone lines. It doesn't need to be printed and then fed back into a fax machine. Let me show you how to fax this letter I'm just finishing up in Q&A. Now what I'll do is take the steps I'd normally follow in Q&A to print this letter. It says F2 is print right on the screen. So I'll press F2. This next screen, called the Print Options screen, lets me see how many copies I want to print, whether I want it single or double-spaced, and so on. I'll leave all the default settings, but make sure Print To is set to PTRA. Now I'm ready to print. But before I do, I'll pop up the Navigator's fax display by pressing the Fax button in the upper right corner of the screen. Then I'll press the Functions button and choose From App. That informs the Navigator to transmit the text coming from the word processor or application. Next, I'll select the recipient for the fax from the phone book. Now the Navigator's fax is poised to transmit anything I print from any program I'm using on the computer. I'll return to Q&A by pressing the Exit button. And then start printing in Q&A by pressing F10. That's all there is to it. To review, just before I print, I call up the fax pop-up, press Functions, and then select From App. Then I start the fax call by selecting a recipient from the phone book and pressing Start. Then, back in my word processor, or whatever I'm running, I print. You can review this procedure in the printed manual which accompanies the Navigator. There, you'll learn that your application must be set as though it is connected to an IBM Pro printer. That's one popular brand of printer. But that's the only restriction. If your programs are prepared to work with a Pro printer, you can send faxes from them directly. Let's take a look at some of the more advanced fax functions next. By now, you probably feel as though you've seen everything the Navigator can do, but there's still more. Two other ways to use the Navigator are as a copier or a scanner. After you feed in pages as though you were planning to fax them, you can print identical duplicates, or you can save images of them in scanned image files. These image files are ready for you to incorporate into a graphics or desktop publishing program. Let's take a look at how to do both. We'll start with the copier. It couldn't be easier. Just press the copier icon here. And then select the number of copies you want by pressing the up or down buttons here. I'll make just one copy by leaving it set as is. Select either the bubble jet or thermal printer. Then place up to 5 pages upside down into the paper feeder. Back on the screen, you press OK, and you're all set. Crisp, clear copies will emerge from the printer. Scanning a document is a little different. Let's get back to the main screen, and then select the extended fax icon. It's the icon of a fax machine. Then select Functions. And then press Document. This box appears on the screen, offering you the choice of either disk or scanner. Choose Scanner. And you'll see this. You may want to make some changes to these settings, depending upon what you want to scan. Let's take a look at these on the left first. Halftone is what you want for scanning photographs or drawings with different colors or shades of gray. Normal is for standard black and white drawings, without gray shades, perhaps a simple black and white drawing of an object. Fine is a high-resolution scan for graphics with many fine lines, perhaps a detailed floor plan or a schematic. You can change these settings by pressing this button until the correct option is lit. Over here on the right are 3 different darkness settings. You can lighten up very dark images by selecting Lighter, and you can make faint images darker by selecting Darker. Normal should work fine in most cases, though. Good. We're all set. The page I copied is back in the paper feeder, face down. Now press Start. It'll take a moment and then you'll see the page start feeding into the scanner. While that's working, let me describe where it goes. Your image goes into a file on the hard disk that has its own designated number. The first scanned image is send0000, and it has a 3-letter file extension, fax. I'll show you in a moment. The second time you scan something, it goes into a file called send0001 with the 3-letter extension, fax, and so on. These files are exactly what you'd have gotten had these images been sent to you by fax, and you'd chosen to store them on disk rather than print them out. To use them in graphics or desktop publishing software, you'll want to convert them to a graphics file format using the file conversion utility you saw earlier. To see how that's done, you should review the segment of this video called Converting Fax Files to Graphics Files. Here, the scanner is now done. Take a look down here. That's all there is to it. In this section, let's take a look at how you can combine several of the features of the Navigator to accomplish some very unique things. Here's what we'll do. We'll use the scanner to scan in a company logo that we can use on letters and memos. Then, in Publish It, we'll combine some text we typed and the logo we scanned and format them both into an attractive letter. Finally, we'll convert the Publish It file to a fax file and send it out as a standard fax. This process requires several steps. Let's start by scanning in the logo and creating a graphic file ready for Publish It. Then we'll get the text ready too. I'll place this page, which has a logo up in the left corner, face down into the page feeder. Then I'll select the file-to-file format converter. On this screen, I'll select Scan to PCX. The page is in the feeder, so I will press Start. It'll take a moment. Let's come back when it's done. I've used the Exit button to return to the main screen, and the page I just scanned is on the disk as a file. Now for the text. I'll use the letter I typed earlier in Q&A. I exported it as an ASCII file called letter. Your Q&A manual gives you details, but when you're finished writing a letter, you press Control F8 to export, rather than Shift F8 to save your work. I'm ready to go into Publish It and combine the PCX and ASCII files into a letter. Anytime I'm planning to fax a completed Publish It document, I must choose the Publish It to File icon rather than the standard Publish It icon. This calls up a special version of Publish It, which prints to a file on disk, a file I can convert to a fax file and send. What I'll do in Publish It is to import both the PCX file with the logo and the ASCII text file with my letter and arrange them properly. You might also want to scan in your signature, convert that to a PCX file, and then use it at the bottom of your letter so your faxes can go out properly signed. Now here in Publish It, I'll draw a frame for the text. And then I'll use an option under the File menu to import the text file into the frame. Import text leads to this screen, where I'll select ASCII and click on OK. This is the item selector. It shows the directories and files under the Publish It directory. This button here takes me back up a level, so I can move down to the Q&A directory. When I saved the file in Q&A, I gave it a file extension of ASC for ASCII. That helps locate the file and Publish It. So, here it is. I'll do the same to pull in the logo. Draw a frame for it. Under File, I'll choose Import Picture. Select PCX and then back up so I can move down to Convert. And then look in the PCX directory There's the PCX file I need. Now in Publish It, I'd probably want to work with the letter a bit, get everything arranged just right. But let's pretend I've just finished so we can go on. To create a faxable file, I'll choose Print under File. And then select OK. It'll take a minute to compose the file and save it on disk. We'll come back when it's done. Now I've left Publish It and I'm ready to convert the Publish It file to a fax file. Back to the file-to-file format converter. I'll select the PPF to fax. PPF is the Publish It file type. Here's the PPF file I need. When the converter is finished, you'll be all set to fax out the file. Now we've got the finished fax file on disk, and we're set to fax it by selecting the extended fax icon, the same one we used earlier to scan in the logo. We need one of the functions. Now here I need to fill in two things, the document I want to send and the destination. I'll start with the document. This time I want disk, because I'll pull the file from the disk rather than from the scanner. There it is. And I'll press OK. And now the destination. I'll pick one from the phone book. How about Liz Arnold? And let's take a look. Liz's phone number is now in the destination box. Start, and we're done. Let's just quickly review those steps. We started by preparing the logo and text for the letter by scanning the logo and typing the text in Q&A. The scanned logo needed conversion from fax to PCX format, so we could import it, along with the text file, into Publish It to File. There we formatted them, printed the finished document as a PPF file, and then converted the PPF file to a fax file. Using the extended fax function, we chose the fax file and the destination, and off it went. Well, we packed a lot into this videotape, and there is still more we just couldn't tell you here. But we hope you've gotten the flavor of all that the Navigator can do. You'll discover more as you work with the system and read the printed manuals. You'll probably devise your own special techniques for using it too. You may want to review certain sections of this video again. Watch once to get an overview, and then watch again, following step by step. I'm sure you'll be up and navigating in no time.